Hey everyone, in our last session we wrapped up iconography. Now let's jump into the final piece of our foundation series, layout. In this chapter, we'll break down the basic structure of a screen. We'll also set up our core guidelines for grids and spacing systems together. First up, let's dive into device anatomy and standard naming rules. We'll see exactly how the OS claims its own space on the screen. Before we start designing layouts, are we really speaking the same language? When people call the very top of the screen a top bar or a header, it causes serious confusion in teamwork. We need standard naming for web and mobile, so we know our exact design boundaries. Let's look at the iOS screen structure first, using iPhone 14 as our baseline. That top area showing time and battery is officially called the status bar. On iPhone 14, the dynamic island makes the status bar 53 points tall. Below that sits the navigation bar with your page title and back button. At the bottom, always design with the safe area in mind around the home indicator and tab bar. Everything left over between these system areas is our playground, the body area. Now let's explore Android based on material design standards. The top area is called the status bar, and along with the bottom gesture area, Android calls these system bars. Right beneath the status bar sits the top app bar at 64 density pixels tall. At the bottom, the navigation area for core destinations sits at 80 density pixels. With diverse devices like folds and flips, always check exact device dimensions. Keep in mind that Android naming and specs differ slightly from iOS. Both platforms also handle navigation quite differently in a few key ways. iOS lacks a system-level back button, so an on-screen back button at the top is mandatory. Android has system back navigation, giving you much more freedom in your header design. That is why iOS centers titles with a left back button, while Android often uses hamburger menus or optional back buttons on the left. There are many other differences like tab bar placements and modal behaviors. I highly recommend checking the official design guidelines for each OS before jumping into design. Next up, let's look at the desktop web environment. Web screens are spacious and flexible, but they follow globally recognized standard structures. You have the GNB at the very top for site-wide navigation. The LNB sits on the left or subheader to organize specific categories. Then comes the main content area where your core information lives, followed by the footer at the bottom. Using standard terms like GNB and LNB makes collaborating with PMs and engineers super smooth. Now that we understand screen anatomy, let's explore grid systems to balance our content. Grids are the foundation that keeps our entire interface clean and structured. Once you understand device structures, you need clear baseline rules for placing content. A grid is our visual baseline and a shared contract with developers. You only need to remember three key elements here. Columns, which are the vertical tracks where content actually sits. Gutters, the spaces between each column. And margins, the outer padding that protects content along the screen edges. When we design to these grid rules, developers can build components by column counts instead of guessing manual coordinates. So, how many columns should we actually use? Let's look at mobile environments first. Mobile screens typically rely on a 4-column grid as the standard baseline. Because screen width is limited, 4 columns neatly split content into single or 2-column layouts. For commerce apps displaying product feeds in 2 or 3 columns, a 6-column grid works great. 6 divides evenly into both 2 and 3, giving you that extra flexibility. Now let's jump over to desktop web environments. On desktop web, a 12-column grid is the global standard. 12 is a magic number because it divides evenly by 2, 3, 4, and 6 for versatile layouts. For dense admin tools or data-heavy dashboards, a 15-column grid is also a popular choice. A 15-column system lets you split complex layouts into 5 equal sections effortlessly. Finally, we have a golden formula for defining spacing inside our grid. It is the rule of 8 and 4. 8 is your primary baseline. Sizing spaces in multiples like 8, 16, 24, and 32 avoids blurry sub-pixel rendering across different screen scales. When tight spacing is needed between icons and text, use 4 as an intentional half-step exception. Remember 8 for broad layouts and 4 for fine-tuning details. How do global design systems manage these rules with design tokens? Let's look at how Ant Design sets up variables in Figma. Inside their dimension base group, core sizes are predefined in multiples of 4 and 8, like 4, 8, 12, 16, and 24. In margin and padding groups, they link directly to these base tokens as aliases instead of typing raw numbers. Tokenizing base measurements like this keeps all spacing across your product perfectly consistent. Ant Design even turns layout spacing directly into ready-to-use components. You can choose slot components that act as columns, scaling flexibly from 1 up to 12 slots. The default gutter between these columns is preset to 16 pixels. Packaging grids into modular components lets you build standardized layouts fast without drawing guides from scratch. So far, we have covered device anatomy and the core principles of grid systems. In our next session, we will look into systematic spacing methods and responsive layout strategies. Catch you in the next video. I'm Dudu.